Welcome to The Shift Show with Adriana Bucci. Join me every week to learn all about narcissistic abuse recovery, healing from physical and emotional pain after the abuse, and everything else to do with toxic people and how they affect your physical, emotional, and mental health. And no, you are not the crazy one. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. Let's get right to it. Hi, and welcome to episode number 24 of The Shift Show. This episode is an awesome interview that I had with Jen Gileno. She is the author of the Finding Happiness book, and there is a little discount on the book at the description of this podcast episode. So if you are interested in this book after hearing our interview together, definitely use coupon code SHIFTTOGETHER when you check out to save $5. I will have everything linked in the description. So Jen is happily married with 2 kids, a first-time author, and a manager at a toy company in Canada. Her book, Finding Happiness, is a book about hope, healing from narcissism, bullying, and recovering from childhood trauma. She shares personal stories of what it's like to be raised by a mother who is suspected to have narcissistic personality disorder in the hopes that it helps others. It's really hard to share stories as we've been taught not to talk about these subjects and that everything that we experienced is our fault. So her hope is that by sharing her stories plus her healing tactics, it will inspire others to know that they are not alone and that they can start the path of the healing journey. So enjoy this interview. It's a really good one, and I think that this is going to help so many people who are struggling with, dealing with narcissistic mothers, parents in general who are narcissistic, whoever your caregivers were, narcissistic abuse in general. It is such an awesome interview and such an awesome book. I've read it. I can highly, highly, strongly recommend anyone listening to this reads it as well because it's just another honest account of somebody's story, and it's going to help so many people. So I hope that this is helpful. So without further ado, let's get right into our chat. Right. So I am here with Jen. So hey, Jen, thanks so much for being on my podcast. How's it going?
Hi, thank you for having me.
Awesome. I'm so glad to have you. I read your book. It's amazing, the Finding Happiness book. And honestly, I just want straight off the bat just to say to everybody who has a narcissistic parent, especially a narcissistic mother who's looking to heal, this book is going to be so amazing for you. It's going to give you so much validation and tips on how to heal. And it's honestly, as I read it, I just saw myself in this book, and it hits so close to home. It's so awesome. So I will let you take the mic and, give us a bit of an idea about your book, what inspired you to write it, and we'll take it from there.
Sure. So it's been about 6 years now since I've said goodbye to my mom. Mm-hmm. And ironically, when I did say goodbye to her, it wasn't an official goodbye. It was, we need to get family counseling or else I can no longer have a relationship with you. Mm-hmm. So she ended up taking this as an attack. And unfortunately, we've never spoken since, but it's been the best thing for my life and for my family's life. But back then, I didn't even know what narcissism was or what narcissistic personality disorder was. I just knew that there was something definitely wrong with our relationship, and it was definitely toxic and verbal abusive. So it wasn't until 2 years after that, so we're talking 2016 now, that I picked up my first book about narcissistic personality disorder. And it just changed my life. It was like I was looking at this and everything was kind of falling into place as to how it was I grew up. And back then I started thinking to myself, why don't we talk about this more? Especially me and my generation, we never talked about what happens when things are wrong at home. We always felt like we had to hide it, or we were ashamed, or like it was our fault. So the lack of information out there, it was just so hard to understand what it was that I experienced. And since finding that book in 2016, I thought to myself, I really wish there was more resources. Mm-hmm. And when I was presented an opportunity about the book, that's exactly why I wanted to do it. One thing I did, yeah, so the one thing I did find lacking though, in terms of resources, is that a lot of people, the few resources that I was able to find on narcissism it was talking about like the traits and the diagnosis, but I found that there was still an element of people being scared to share their personal stories.
Yes.
And I'll admit, I'm still scared about some of the stories that I've shared, just
Oh,
because
me
you're
too.
so engraved in your brain,
I get
right?
it. Yeah. It's just, it's so like life and death. Like, you
Yeah,
know, you still feel like, you know, even though I'm protected against my mother, she's not going to attack me or kill me or whatever.
yeah,
You know, like the ties have been cut. You still feel like, oh my God, I'm going to get in so much trouble for just speaking
exactly.
about it.
Exactly. And so that's why when I was presented with this opportunity to write this book, I said to myself, okay, if I'm going to go in and do this book, I'm going to go fully in and
Mhm.
share it all. So the book is almost essentially my diary where I share personal experiences, but then I also share some of my research about narcissism. And then I share kind of like some of my survival tactics I learned on the way and tips to heal.
Mhm.
Just because I found that was kind of unique in terms of the books that I've come across about that.
Right.
Now, in saying that, when I was writing it, it was so therapeutic. It's probably the best thing that could have happened because all of a sudden all these suppressed memories started coming up.
Yeah.
It actually led me to therapy eventually,
That's
which
good. Yeah.
I'm very thankful that it led me to there. I've always been, again, trained that therapy is not good, and
Right.
because my mom used to tell me that. But the book led me to therapy, and I'm still having a little bit of anxiety, like
Mhm.
just sharing all of these personal stories.
Of
But
course.
so far, the feedback has been really good, and I see that it's helping people. So it
Amazing.
kind of keeps me pushing on, I guess. So
For sure. There's so many people that need to hear your story because, you know, so many people, like you said, it's scary to share it. And there's so much anxiety sharing your own story. So then when more of us share our stories like this, it encourages other people to, you know, first of all, realize that they don't need to live their life this way anymore.
yeah.
And second of all, that it is okay to share. And, you know, like narcissistic abuse is so, you know, kept hush hush, especially in family systems and even in society. It's like people just, some people have this attitude of like, oh, you don't want to use the word narcissist because it's a bad word, but like it's not. Like we're calling a spade a spade. And without that vocabulary, we don't know what to look for. So, you know, we both had this experience where you're trying to find resources on narcissistic parents, narcissistic mothers in particular, and there's very limited information out there. And then you see the statistics of like, oh, it's like a really low percentage, like only 2% of the population is diagnosed as like narcissistic personality disorder. But the thing that is not said is that people who are narcissists are not going to go out and get a diagnosis.
Yeah.
So it
How many
keeps,
are there truly?
exactly. I feel like there's way more than just 2%. Like there's no way that, you know, like your book is obviously doing well for a reason. My Instagram page is obviously doing well for a reason. And all the other pages out there and resources about narcissistic people, narcissistic mothers, whatever, like there is a freaking epidemic of narcissistic abuse going on. And to keep yourself, you know, not wanting to use the vocab or whatever, like you're not helping anybody. So it's so important to share these stories, to share, you know, to use the correct vocabulary, you know, that this person is a narcissist, not just an asshole, you know. It's so important. So honestly, like thank you for having your story out there in a book that people can literally just access. They can read it. They can feel like they're not going crazy. They can see like, oh my God, this is my life story too. And, you know, there's just so much value in that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. so give me a little info on like how you wrote your book.
Sure. So the book's written, it's broken up by 3 parts. So part 1 really focuses on when situations just have nothing to do about you. So it's entitled Sometimes It's Just Not About You. Part one focuses a lot about childhood and bullying and just situations that no matter what you could have done or may have done, it wouldn't have changed the outcome. I find that a lot of people with toxic households, they tend to blame themselves a lot about their childhood, but meanwhile, at the end of the day, you were a child. So what really could you have done to change things?
So true.
Yeah, so
So
part
true.
one is to eliminate that noise, and that's where I
Yeah.
share a lot of personal stories about my childhood. Some people who have read the book have found part one a little bit heavy because I'm trying to set the stage and really introduce myself from the beginning. But I promise the book leads off, like it ends off in a very happy place, and it gets lighter as you go on. That's something I've had to tell people who have read the book. So part two, it talks about what happened to you. So it's identifying what happened to you, so that way you know where it is that you need help. So for part two, I talk a lot about narcissistic personality disorder, what it was like to be raised by a mother who I believe has narcissistic personality disorder, and then more importantly, how it impacted you, or what the impact is for children who had these toxic upbringings or had these verbal abusive relationships.
Right.
So for this, you can kind of take a look at it and see where it is that you fall. It's such a hard, complicated thing to address. So which is why I tried to share as many personal stories as possible. But like, even as I was writing the stories, they were getting so complicated and so multi-layered, because that's what your mom does to you, is they make you think that you're the one that's going crazy.
It's so true. They send you through this like maze, and it's like you can't just tell a story and it's like there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's, you know, exactly, there's a beginning, and then the middle is just like it goes on forever in like 12 different directions, because they just, that's what they do. It's so wild.
Yeah, it's crazy. So like one of my stories that I share in the book, and this isn't even the last story that finally led me to sever the ties, but was my wedding.
Oh yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, my wedding was a day of chaos.
Oh no.
And I promise I'll get to part 3 after this story. But so for my wedding, my mom and my stepdad decided that they weren't going to come at last minute. So,
awesome.
So my mom sent my stepdad over to bring the news of they will not be attending the wedding, and he was the one that was supposed to walk me down the aisle.
Oh, wow.
And the excuse is that they weren't coming because I never visited them.
Oh my God. So, just as a way to punish you last minute when you've had this planned out for like probably a year.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
Now, the reason we didn't come over is a very big reason. So my son was diagnosed with anaphylaxis to peanuts. So deathly allergic to peanuts. My mom never fully believed this allergy, and
of course she didn't.
She would accuse me of I needed attention.
Oh my God.
The world always revolved around me. I'm just making this up. Like, she never took it seriously. And ironically, it was around the same time where she decided to start feeding the squirrels whole peanuts.
Oh my gosh.
Peanuts were literally all over her like front yard, her steps. She would have these huge bags of raw peanuts in her house.
So she's trying to kill her grandson.
Really?
Like
I finally said to her, I'm sorry, like if you can't understand and respect and try to create a safe household for him, we can no longer come over.
Of course.
She took that as, of course, again, I'm looking for an excuse not to come over.
Oh my gosh.
All this drama about it. So that's why we stopped going over.
It's a very valid reason to stop going. Very valid. Yeah.
So when it came to the wedding and my stepdad coming over saying, we're not coming to your wedding, everything else, I turned to him and I said to him, at what point are you going to take a look at your lives and realize that not everybody can be wrong? Mm-hmm. They had managed to alienate pretty much everyone in their life. And me and my brother were basically the last 2 left.
Wow.
And I think for the first time in my life, I finally got through to my stepdad. My stepdad was the enabler in their relationship. Mm-hmm. And he actually went back to my mom and said, listen, we need to sit down. We can't miss her wedding. and he forced her to come over and rehash all the issues. And it was
Oh my
probably the
gosh.
first time my mom's ever been put in her place. So I was so hopeful
Yeah.
that would have been the start of maybe we could figure out a way to make this work. So they were coming to the wedding. Next thing you know, I get a phone call from my stepdad, and he's like, so we're just at a dress shop right now, and your mom really wants to buy a dress. It's white, and it looks like a ball. And I say to him, you mean a wedding dress? He's like, well, it's white, and it's like fluffy, and
oh my God.
it's like a ball gown. And I was like, a wedding dress. And at this point, I didn't even care, to be honest with you. I was just like, whatever. I just don't want any more drama because I'm planning.
Gosh.
And I was like, well, I'm going to leave that up to you. I'm guessing because you're calling me, there's probably something wrong with that.
Exactly. If you want to be that person who's going to literally wear a wedding dress to somebody's wedding, like
your daughter's wedding.
Yeah.
Right? Can you imagine?
Exactly, right? Like that, everyone's going to have an opinion on that.
Right.
So she's just setting herself up for like extreme judgment there.
Oh yeah. But even then I was like, well, I'm like, just try to think like, if other people saw this, they're probably going to question it if it looks like a wedding dress. So he ended up convincing her to buy a dress that was white, but it had blue flowers, so it was fine. Okay. But she was so upset about this. So upset.
Oh my God.
Because she had to make this adjustment for my wedding.
Yeah. And it had to be all about her.
Yeah. And her favorite line with me is the world revolves around Jenny. And so this was another example of, I can't even wear what I want to her wedding. So anyway.
My God.
So that was that.
No one can wear what they want to somebody's wedding if it's a white dress and it's not your wedding.
Right. So, anyways, the day of the wedding, I tried to avoid her at all costs. She kept trying to find me the entire day. She kept trying to talk to me. It was my bridesmaids. The only job they had that day was to just kind of keep her away because I didn't deal with it. And it was fine. Because we kept our distance, there wasn't a lot of drama until after the wedding. We found out that she told everyone that she paid for the wedding and I used her for it.
What?
Yeah. She did not. So she gave us a gift of $1,000, which was like super appreciated. Thought it was lovely, but to put in perspective,
that's not,
didn't even pay for one table.
Yeah, like that's not paying for the wedding. Yeah.
Yeah, and so then she started telling all of our family members that and whatever else. So this wasn't even the last story that I talk about in the book.
Course,
this was one story, and basically, the big one. Yeah, and basically every time something good was happening in my life, she would try to sabotage it or badmouth me or make me doubt it or make me even rethink, do I deserve this?
Right.
But every time my life was bad, she was wonderful to me and would try to be there for me and then talk to relatives or my stepdad. Oh, what are we going to do about that, Jenny? Her life's such a mess. But she would love to feed when I was going through bad moments in my life. And it was a constant struggle the whole time. So that's one story to share. There's many.
Yeah.
And then leading into part 3. So part 3 is really the whole positive end of the book. It's titled, This Part is All About You. And this is when we talk about like survival tactics, tips, things you can do. So I talk about like the power of thought and try to make the power of thought seem a little less overwhelming. I think people find that so overwhelming that nobody can be positive all the time. Well, of course you can't, but you can do little things to try to get your thinking in a more positive light. So I share some tips there. I talk a lot about relationships. So I realized my childhood and my upbringing, it kind of groomed me to expect to be treated poorly. Being treated poorly, and I got into just so many bad relationships because I didn't think I deserved more. And so I talk a lot about embarrassingly enough, I talk a lot about ex-boyfriends. Yeah. Who I was in relationships. Yeah. And how things turned around when I met my husband 10 years ago. Awesome. I talk a lot about whispers, and that's how kind of this book came about. And so I talk about how.
So yeah, tell us what whispers are. Yeah.
Sure. So It's funny because so to start the story, I got to go back 15 years, but I
Sure.
promise I'll make it short.
Oh yeah, it's okay. We have time.
So, so 15 years ago, I was a sales rep working for Pepsi.
Okay.
And what that entailed was I would go to convenience and gas stores, and you would just try to like sell in more Pepsi, get displays on shelf, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
So I was walking into my next account, and this gentleman stopped me on the road and he was asking if I had ever considered working in infomercials.
Okay. So random.
Sounds sketchy at all, right? But,
right. Just a bit.
So, he gives me his business card and he says, listen, I understand that this might seem a little bit sketchy. Here's my card, Google me, you'll see I'm legit. And if you're interested, give me a call and we'll talk about if you're interested in this opportunity, okay? So Googled him, he seemed legit. He had multiple companies at that time. One happened to be this media company. Met with him at a restaurant, brought two friends of mine. They were 2 tables down anonymously, never too safe. And we started talking about this infomercial opportunity. The weird part is, though, is that at this point in my life, I didn't tell anybody about my upbringing because I was still in the phase of feeling ashamed and embarrassed. And I was still playing the role of everything's great.
Right.
But he was one of those people where I had just met him and all of a sudden I started sharing stories about my mom. It was the weirdest thing because I never did that at this point.
Right.
Even close friends of mine only knew a little bit.
Right.
That would only be because they met her and I would have to give some sort of explanation.
Right. Yeah.
So when I started talking about my mom, he's like, I'm so happy you're sharing this with me. I'm actually working on a book series right now called Women in Heels. And what this book series was about is women would dedicate a chapter to their life story, and it would talk about them overcoming some sort of challenge and how they became a success. So it's a bunch of women that got together, shared their inspirational stories, and it's to show young women that no matter where you come from, you can be a success and have a great life.
I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah, it became really successful. It has 4 versions of it now.
Oh, wow.
So you can always Google it, Women in Heels.
Yeah.
And so he asked me to write a chapter. And I was like, okay, sure. I guess it looks like my life's put together. Why not? So I wrote the chapter, but I was about to submit it, and I made the mistake of telling my mom about it.
Uh-oh.
And she lost it.
Of course.
And at that point, I was trying to have a relationship with her. So I ended up backing out of the book at last minute. And understandably so, he was upset because it was last minute. I'm sure they had to change the pagination or whatever else. And we never talked again. Okay.
Yeah.
Now we're into early last year, so the beginning of 2019.
Okay.
So I just started thinking to myself, I really want to do something to help people. Like, I feel like I could either work with teenagers or volunteer my time, just speaking to young girls who have troubled home lives and stuff like this. But I had no idea how to go about it.
Right.
And that was it. It was just a random thought. So I just started listening to a lot of podcasts and a lot of self-help books, and just to try to get inspired or just something to kind of get things going. So there was one that I listened to, and they talked about whispers. And what a whisper is that they say that throughout life you get signs where there's something that's almost pushing you in the direction of what it is you're meant to do. Okay. So if you're not ready for it, these whispers will be super quiet. You probably won't even notice them. But if you are ready for it, they'll be really loud and in your face and hard to ignore. Okay? So I'm thinking about this whisper theory, and I'm like, I wonder if 15 years ago that was a whisper. That was it. Just that quick thought. Nothing. Went to bed that night. Woke up the next morning, and I get a notification on LinkedIn. It's Sanjay Berman's birthday. Well, that was the guy that asked me to write the chapter 15 years ago, or the guy that asked me to be in an infomercial, which I never did, by the way. And I'm reading this, and I'm like, oh my God, is this a whisper? Like, I was just all freaked out. I was like, okay, this is just so weird. And so I was like, okay, whatever. I'll just say happy birthday. There's no harm in that. Said happy birthday, left it at that. The generic, whatever. It even fills it in for you, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And then he gets back to me right away and he's like, Jen, how are you? I see you're working here. I've been thinking about you lately. I'd love to catch up, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay. Maybe he doesn't hate me. Because in my mind, I was the punk kid 15 years ago that backed out, irresponsible. Right. So I ended up having to go downtown for a work event. And so I was like, hey, I'm downtown in 2 weeks anyways. Could I meet you earlier? And I would just love to hear what projects you have on the go and see if there's anything that matches up or whatever. Like, yeah, absolutely. Let's meet here. Okay. Fast forward 2 weeks. I'm driving downtown, which is like probably over an hour where I live. So there's a lot of time to get in your head. And I'm thinking to myself, this is really weird. Why is he giving me a meeting? Like, so he's very established. He's got multiple companies. Hasn't heard from me in 15 years. Give me a meeting just like that. And I'm like, what is this is just
yeah.
But I'm like, okay, I'm here. I'm just going
go along with it. See what happens.
So I meet with him, and first thing I say to him is, you're probably wondering why you're hearing from me after all this time. And he's like, no. He goes, I just saw you at an event. I knew I'd be hearing from you eventually. I was not at an event. He gave me the meeting thinking I was somebody else.
Oh, wow.
That meeting, it lasted about an hour. And by the end of the meeting, I had this book offer.
Cool.
So when I talk about whispers and how life just kind of guides you, I can't have a better example.
That's so amazing.
All of a sudden, I was in the right frame of mind to share my stories. I knew I wanted to do something, and all these random events perfectly line up.
That's so cool.
To be published. I still don't know who that girl was to this day. I've asked her.
Oh, the one that he thought you were.
Maybe send a weird note. Thank you awkwardly. I don't know.
Right.
But, that's how the book came about. And I'm just a believer now is that in life, there are these little signs and there are these little magical things out there that you can't rationally explain.
Right.
But it does help guide you in life. And next thing you know, a year later, my book's out. And I'm trying not to panic.
Oh man, that's so amazing. But yeah, I get it. Like you are probably panicking because like your story's out there. And I totally, like when I first made my website and had my about me section, it was like, oh, it says something about a, troubled relationship with my mother. What if she finds it? Oh no, then what's going to happen to me? But then it's like, at the end of the day, whatever, right? So can you tell us a bit how you're dealing with that aspect of having your book out there? Like how has that been for you?
Sure. So it's day by day, I'll be honest. I mean, when you write a book, you start off, it's just you and your thoughts. And so you have complete ownership of it.
Right.
And when I started writing the book, I went in so strong. I thought I knew what I was doing. I was just going to do this and it was going to be great. But then as you're going through memories and a lot of suppressed stuff started coming to the surface and a lot of inner child insecurities were coming up, and it was coming up all at once. I developed a really big love-hate relationship for this book. So as an example, there's two big lines that my mom would always say to me. One was she would always tell me growing up that nobody really likes you. I pretend I like you because I have to, because I'm your mom, but everyone else pretends to like you because they're just being polite.
That's awful.
So that was a thought that I had in the back of my mind writing this book. I'm like, oh my God, what if people, again, as an adult, I know better, but I was dealing with some inner child stuff.
Of course.
And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, what if people read my book and they just tell me it's great? And what if everyone who's in this project with me is just like, ugh, whatever. And so I had to deal with that, like inner child versus rational adult back and forth.
For sure.
And then the other one was the world is always about Jenny. The world revolves around Jenny. And I'm like, well, I don't know how that's going to get rid of that perception, that line, because all of a sudden I'm making my world public.
So true.
So it was really hard. So I wrote the book. It was funny because when I was done the book, I never wanted to look at the thing again. I was so finished with it. Like I said, it led me to therapy. It broke me down a couple of times because I always thought I dealt with my stuff, but I didn't fully, we're so busy in our everyday lives, we don't invest time in ourselves and in our healing. And the book
Yep.
forced me to look at myself. And when
Totally.
I done my book, the first thing my publisher said to me was, we need 10,000 more words. And I looked at him and I said, no effing way. I'm done. Like,
Yeah.
if
Oh
you
my
want more
God.
of me, then you have to pause, and we're delaying things because I
Right.
need to heal. Um, anyways, so we ended up I ended up adding some stuff in, more
Mhm.
personal stuff. So that was okay. And that was fine. But then afterwards, when you're done writing a book, you have to reread your book so many
Oh my
times
gosh.
that you're reliving all these horrific stories over and over and over.
Right.
And the most surreal part about going through this process is when I went through the editing process, I met my editor, who I absolutely adore. She also had similarities in
Mhm.
upbringing with her, and I clicked like just immediately, and she's
Amazing.
close to me to this day. But my first meeting with her was a binder, and it was essentially my life story in color tabs.
Oh wow.
She would have family is yellow, ex-boyfriends is red, mom is blue. And that's when she was reordering it. Okay.
Wow.
So to give you some background, then
Mhm.
COVID hits.
Oh no.
I've got a break from this to heal. And then
Yeah.
boom, all of a sudden we're launching.
Oh boy.
So when the book came out, a lot of anxiety ensued because I thought I had more time to heal from
Right.
it. And I thought I had more time to fall in love with the process again and love it. I just needed
Mhm.
time.
Yeah.
And when I got it and I started sharing it with relatives, that was my biggest thing I was worried about.
Mhm.
A lot of words of encouragement. And then I
That's
started
amazing.
opening the circle and sharing it with friends who didn't understand my upbringing. Because again, I was always very
Right.
private. And then I was getting more. And just the circle of love just kind of expanded.
Amazing.
Now with it being out, there are still moments where, like, because I shared everything and I didn't hold anything back, I still have a lot of moments of, oh shit, what did I just do?
Mhm.
Uh, Especially when it comes to past relationships.
Oh,
I mean, most of us tend to, like, we just want to forget about
I
ex-boyfriends.
know, right?
Me, I write a whole chapter on it, right?
Yeah.
So there's still a lot of panic moments,
Oh yeah.
but I mean, it's a roller coaster. And I think
Mm,
any time you take a chance on life, I think that's a normal reaction.
of
It's going to be
course.
scary. It's going to be high highs, low lows.
For sure.
But the best part about it is, though, is that people have been sharing their stories back to me, and I'm talking like strangers who have
It's
read my
amazing.
book will reach out and just tell me their story and tell me how mine's helped.
Wow.
So who
That's
knows?
amazing.
Today, it'll probably change tomorrow.
Yeah. I know it's always the ups and downs, right? Like,
Right.
but no, that's so amazing that, like it was difficult for you to, write the book, reread it all these times. It led you to therapy, but that also led you to healing
Mhm.
and helping people too, who, there's so many people dealing with narcissistic mothers
Yeah.
that, I almost feel like we should talk about this even more. Like I feel like just talking to you now, it's like I should be talking about this so much more, because you just don't know who is listening, who's watching, who's reading, who's resonating with the words, who's struggling with it right now. And your words on your book, like that can be so healing to somebody, and just the discovery of it. And that could be the first book that some people pick up about narcissistic mothers. And
I really
that's
hope.
right. And that's
Mhm.
going to help them so much. And like just reading that book could totally change their life.
That's honestly the hope that it is.
Yeah.
I would never advise people whether or not the right thing is to say goodbye to your mom or keep a
Mm-hmm.
relationship with your mom. But the biggest part about the book is just knowing that there's other people out there, because the way we grew up, we weren't allowed to talk about it, and we
Yeah,
blamed ourselves. So just knowing that other people went through it right there is empowering, and it just
absolutely.
hopefully gives strength.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest thing that I found is that going through this process of the book, I always have been a person of deadlines. And there's
Mm-hmm.
even a joke in the book about deadlines, is that growing my whole life, I always thought, okay, if I have a crappy day, I'm giving myself a day to be mad and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow I'm going back to normal and done.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably the worst thing for my healing, because
Yeah.
that's how I did my whole life, was just, okay, you got 5 minutes to cry. Good. You done? Perfect.
Yeah.
Even when I finally went to therapy, my first meeting with her was, I was like, listen, this is what the problem is. When will we be done? And she, what do you mean, when will we be done? And I told her, I was like, listen, my whole life has been about deadlines. I will give a deadline to myself. You're allowed to feel crappy until this day, but that's it. And she's like, Jen, there's no deadline. There's no deadline in anything. Healing is ongoing. And nobody had ever told me that before. That's the funniest part. When she said that, it was like, whoa, wait a minute. I just had this huge aha moment, like, oh God, I've been giving myself all these deadlines, doing more damage to myself, not letting myself properly feel until this book came about.
Right.
And always putting pressure on myself, being like, okay, you got to heal. You got to be okay.
Right.
And the best part, and one of my most proudest part of the book, and it's so subtle, so a lot of people probably won't even pick up on it, is that near the end of the book, I conclude that it's okay that healing will be an ongoing thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. To me, that was the most powerful thing, because I've never given myself like almost like a pass to needing help or needing more healing or anything.
Right.
And just that one line, I still read it sometimes, where like, I'm such a fan of sticky notes, because I always have to remind myself of certain things, like whether or not it's like a reminder for work or being a parent, or even if it's a reminder for like normal things. And when I say normal, I mean, like, if I'm stressed out, I'll write a sticky note on my computer and just put "be kind," because I know when I'm stressed out, I might be like aggressive.
Right.
But that sticky note, I even have that on my computer, like, okay to not be okay. This is a lifelong journey. And there's some freedom in knowing that as well. Like, and I think that's also coming from being raised by a narcissistic mother, is that you were never allowed to feel. You were never allowed to show that things were upset. Like with me, I had an ignoring mom, so I would always feel like I had to fade into the background. And time I needed something, I was ridiculed or yelled at.
It's awful.
And so, yeah. And so that was a really, really big healing thing when it came to the work, when it came to the book. And it was also freeing. So, yeah.
Totally. And, just to emphasize that, healing is a journey and it never really ends. But, I don't want people to think like, okay, I'm just not going to bother healing at all because it's never going to end, because, it didn't take us one day to get to the point where we need to do some healing work, right? Yeah. It's, for both of us, it was a lifetime of narcissistic abuse from our mothers, from the one person that you're supposed to be able to trust, right? So we didn't get into the state that we were in overnight. It was calculated abuse by our mothers. And, for whoever's listening to this, maybe it was by somebody else, like whoever your caregivers were, whatever. But that's a result of like accumulation of abuse over time. You create these belief systems in your head, you live on deadlines, all that kind of stuff. And that's something that we really need to take into consideration when we first start doing the healing work. Because it's like, okay, like maybe I can give myself a break because it didn't take me overnight to get here. And I guess that means it's not going to take me overnight to be this perfectly healed unicorn. Like, it just doesn't work that way. It's definitely a journey, and it gets a lot easier as time goes on. So, I mean, I'm sure, like, I don't want to speak for you, but for myself, I can definitely say that who I am today versus who I was a year ago versus who I was a year and a half ago when I first came across this work, like, they're completely different people. Even who I was a month ago, totally different person, right? So it's a self-discovery thing that, we evolve as we go along, as we do the healing work. We figure out different things that resonate with us, different ways of healing, different ways of looking at doing the work. And it's not an overnight thing, and it never will be.
It's such an amazing thing though, because like again, like I was saying, like how I was raised, I was never allowed to feel. So I never fully
Exactly.
got to know myself.
Right.
And then now that I'm starting to get to know myself in these last 6 years, it's been such an amazing, eye-opening experience
Mhm.
because all of a sudden you're looking at other relationships that you have. And
Right.
being raised in that environment, you're used to being treated poorly. So
Absolutely.
sometimes you'll have friends that also treat you poorly and you'll give
Yeah.
people more of a pass because it's what you're used to. And so going
Exactly.
through this healing process, I mean, even for me, I ended up scrubbing some friendships in my life because I
Mhm.
realized that they were there because I was letting them treat me poorly.
Right.
It's so freeing and it's so like it I don't know, I can't even just describe like how much better I feel now that I'm slowly starting to get to know myself.
Mhm.
But the best part is that there's no pressure like I would always put on myself in the past. So
Right.
um yeah, it's something that I look forward to continue exploring and continue, even though the book is out there that's meant to help people, it's also helping me as well. Like,
Totally. Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Just
And
writing it is healing.
yeah, and honestly, there's also something fun in admitting that you're flawed,
Yeah.
right? All of a
It's
sudden
so
you're just like,
true.
yeah, this is me.
Yeah. Exactly. Like no filter, take it or leave it. This is
Right?
my truth and that's it.
Yeah.
There's so much power in that. And if you getting to the point of being able to say that takes doing the healing work.
Mhm.
And that's why it's so, so worth it. Like it is, I cannot stress how worth it is to do some kind of healing work when it comes to having been raised by a narcissist. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because, it's not like, okay, I went through this horrible thing in my life, or, I'm gonna, a childhood trauma is not like a pissing contest where it's like, oh, other people had it so much worse than me. What's my problem? Like, I shouldn't even be thinking that this is trauma, but like, it really is. Emotional abuse 100% is trauma. So
Yeah.
when you're living with that mindset of, like, this is just how people are horrible, people are pretending to like me, no one actually likes me, I'm a piece of shit, like, whatever your narrative is,
Yeah.
like there's a possibility to not think that way. And that requires doing the work. And it's so, so, so freaking worth it. Like, I cannot stress how worth it is.
Totally, totally agreed. And honestly, if there's one thing I could take back was getting help way earlier,
Mm-hmm.
not starting a book to force me into therapy. Because
Right.
but even looking back, had I not started the book, I would probably have never have gone. But
Right.
if I could have changed one thing about my past, it would have been getting me some sort of help.
Right.
Yeah, way before,
Oh,
way
for sure.
just because you learn different things about yourself, you learn different survival tactics. But the biggest part is,
Totally.
as soon as you admit you need help, you start being more open and you start meeting other survivors out there. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the biggest thing. Because again, we all thought we were alone and look how
Yeah.
many of us there are. So
So many
yeah.
of us.
So I'm such a firm believer of getting any sort of help that you need and just being open to the idea that you do deserve more. And even one part of my book that I talk about when it comes to relationships, I talk to myself about basically my dating pattern was similar to the
Mm-hmm.
point where I'm talking about boyfriends in my book. A lot of them I just like blended in together.
Yeah.
It's really the exact
Totally.
where,
Same.
yeah, right. And it was over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So it's really funny because I think I reference in the book 3 ex-boyfriends,
Mm-hmm.
but there was probably like, I want to say maybe 8 or 9. They're all
Yeah.
just blended in together.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So
Because it's always the same story. It's
it's
just,
your
it's so
pattern.
funny. Yeah.
It's
Like,
your pattern.
yeah.
And so the boy that I was dating before I met my husband, when we ended that relationship, well, actually he ended that relationship, and I was heartbroken, and
Mm-hmm.
I said to myself, why do these things keep happening to me?
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until a couple of months later I had that answer. It was because of me. It
Right.
was me. I mean, I was the one that kept picking these boys that were like, they had sabotaging behavior, they're
Mm-hmm.
self-destructive, they needed help, and that was my constant pattern. And I love
Mm-hmm.
to be able to fix them and not have to worry about myself. But then after
Right.
the relationship, I'd be like, ugh, boys are so stupid. Why is this happening to me? And it wasn't until then that I finally had it.
Yeah.
And one of the chapters where I talk about positive thinking and try to change your mind frame is I talk about that, where my relationships where I finally had this moment. Why am I always in these bad relationships?
Mm-hmm.
Because of me, nobody else. And I started thinking differently, and
Right.
I paused on dating. I paused on all of that, and I focused on myself. And this was the summer before I met my husband.
Mm-hmm.
And that summer, I just started wishing for things. And I'd never wished for anything in my life because I was so trained to be disappointed that
Mm-hmm.
I thought that wishing was, well, stupid.
Yeah,
Nothing ever could happen.
exactly.
I wished for more.
Yeah.
But that summer, I finally had the courage to dream. And I started thinking to myself, you know what? I really want to get married. I really want to have a family. I really want to have kids. I really want to meet my husband,
Mm-hmm.
the person that I want to spend the rest of my life with. And little did I know that a few months later, I would meet my husband.
Wow.
And honestly, I listened, and I talk about meeting my husband in the book, but I listened to his path before he met me.
Mm-hmm.
And had I met him a year before, we wouldn't have worked,
Right.
because I was in a different frame of mind. So was he.
Right.
One big thing that changed was my way of thinking and wishing. And then all of a sudden I met my husband, and a year later, him and I were living in a house, and we had a son. Like,
Amazing.
it was like that instant.
That's so amazing.
And so that's why I'm a firm believer too. If you can just try to shift thinking a little bit, you have no
Mm-hmm.
idea how it's changing the
Absolutely.
course of your life.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Thanks so much for sharing. And where can people get your book?
So they can find it on my website. So it's findinghappinessbook.ca.
Awesome.
You can order it there. So, and we recently set up two different options. So one is you can just buy the book, or two, if you're sending the book to someone in need of healing, or if you want to message yourself, I just put a little box to say what it is you're looking for, and I'll write like a
Mm-hmm.
little note before I send it out.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's amazing.
Because I noticed what was happening is people would buy the book and then they would email me afterwards saying, I really want to get this book for my friend because I think they could learn from it too.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to include that just in case, it just adds that personal
Yeah.
touch. And then for your followers, we're going to have a coupon code until the end of
Awesome.
August. And the coupon code is Shift Together, all one
Awesome.
word. And that gives you $5 off the book. So you can get a copy for $9.95.
That is so awesome. And I will put that link in the description of this podcast episode so that people can, find exactly where to get the book from. And I will put that code as well. So it's just Shift Together. It'll be all written in the description of this episode for anyone listening who wants to buy the book. I highly recommend that you do, because it is just, I read it myself and I just had so many moments of like, holy crap, right? And, I've done the work myself. So it's like just hearing another person's story is it's amazing. Like, I cannot stress enough how awesome this book is. And it has everything that you need in it. So it's not just, oh, this is my story. You also have the tips on how to heal and all that kind of stuff too. So, it's a really, really great resource for anybody who's struggling with narcissistic mothers.
Thank you.
So yeah, you're welcome. So thanks so much for being on my podcast. It was an absolute pleasure speaking with you.
Thanks so much for having me.
Of course, anytime. And so we'll have all that info out there. And any final words of wisdom that you'd like to share with anybody before we end this podcast episode?
I think just the biggest thing is that share your story with people you're comfortable with, because the second you share your story, you realize that everybody has a story, and all of us have a survival story that we can learn from. Yeah. Plus, the second that you share your story, that's also a way of healing.
Absolutely.
So try to be open.
Awesome. I love it. That's some great, great advice. So yeah, once again, thank you so much for being here, and we will end this here.
Thank you.
You're welcome.